Hello everybody, Luke here and welcome back to the Magic the Gathering tutorial. In part 3 we took a look at enchantments and auras, and this time in part 4 we're going to take a look at instants, counter spells, and other tricks. So let's move on in our quest and master the stack. The stack is where every spell waits for other players to respond to it. Instant spells take advantage of the stack for surprising tricks like dealing damage, buffing a creature, or even countering an opponent's spell.
For your fourth quest, you'll be using a blue deck. Blue's specialty is disrupting its opponent's plans, drawing cards, and using difficult-to-block creatures. Your opponent is Jade Mage. Jade Mage cast an instant. Instants work just like sorceries. They apply immediately to the game and are then discarded, except they can be played at any time. This spell makes her Rumbling Baloth larger, but only until the end of the turn.
So we jumped into a game that's already in progress. We got a couple of creatures, and Jade Mage cast Giant Growth on this to make it a 7/7. It's going to deal lethal damage, so we're going to have to block it with our Air Elemental and lose that creature.
You've drawn Cancel, a spell that counters another one. Countering stops a spell from happening. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, like summoning a creature, you can respond to it with an instant like Cancel. If you counter your opponent's spell, it will go to their graveyard and the mana they used is still spent. If you attack now, you'll be in danger of losing the game. Better not attack until you have better choices.
Yeah, we don't want to leave ourselves defenseless, so let's skip that attack step. Looks like Jade Mage is casting Giant Growth again.
Okay, now Jade Mage has cast another Giant Growth. But instead of letting it make her Rumbling Baloth bigger, you can respond by pausing the action and casting Cancel.
Let's go ahead and stop the timer and cancel this Giant Growth before it's too late.
Now you've cast a spell, Cancel, targeting Jade Mage's spell, Giant Growth. This zone, where spells live before they resolve, is called the stack. Every player can add more instants or abilities to the stack in the same way.
For example, if Jade Mage were to cast another Giant Growth on top of this, that would resolve first, making this a 7/7. Then this would resolve, canceling that Giant Growth. It gets a little tricky. Thankfully, it didn't happen this time. Now we're in good shape to exchange creatures. We don't want to lose the game already. Let's see what she put in here. We got Spiked Baloth, 4/2 with trample. That could be trouble.
You've drawn Archaeomancer, a creature with a triggered ability. That means when something specific happens, this card will automatically do something special. Many creatures have a triggered ability when they enter the battlefield. Archaeomancer, for example, will retrieve an instant or sorcery from your graveyard.
Go ahead and play our Archaeomancer. And the only thing we have in our graveyard is this cancel, so let's pick it up.
Normally, blocking creatures take all the damage from the attacking creature. But if a creature with trample is blocked, it will deal enough damage to kill the blocking creature and deal its remaining damage to the defending player.
So unfortunately, we are going to take 2 damage since it's going to deal 4. We can only block 2.
Unless you stop the timer to counter this spell, the Duskdale Worm will probably kill you.
Well, let's go ahead and pause it and cancel this Duskdale Worm, a 7/7 with trample. We definitely do not want that to hit the battlefield. So let's send it back to the graveyard where it belongs. Okay, so we drew Divination. We can draw 2 cards with it. Let's see what we get. We got Aether Adept. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature to its owner's hand. Let's go ahead and get this spiked Baloth out of here before it kills us. Let's take a look at what was just cast. Primordial Hydra. Enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it, X being the mana spent in colorless mana to cast the spell. At the beginning of your upkeep, double the 1/1 counters on it, and it has trample as long as it has 10 or more +1/+1 counters. But we have Switcheroo. So Switcheroo is here to turn the tide in your favor. Casting it allows you to swap one of your creatures with one of your opponents. So we're going to go ahead and cast it and exchange control of this tiny Aether Adept with this giant Primordial Hydra. And we can go ahead and put our island out. So at the beginning of our upkeep, as you saw before we draw a card, we doubled the number of counters on this, and now it's a 14/14 with trample. And I'm not going to play that land, because usually it's good to hang on to a card, maybe make it look like you have a combat trick, even though I don't think there's anything Jade Mage could do at this time to even deal with this, let alone a combat trick. So let's go ahead and attack with the Hydra and see what happens. Looks like she's going to block with the Aether Adept, and that is more than enough damage to kill her.
Instants are powerful ways to surprise your opponents or thwart their plans. Practice using the stack with tricks like Giant Growth, Cancel, and others. In Quest 5, we'll suit up interesting creatures with equipment.
So there you have it. That's going to do it for this part of the tutorial. I hope you all enjoyed it. So we took a look at instants and learned how to manipulate the stack to our advantage. Again, if you have any comments, questions, leave them in the comment section below, the question section, I guess you could call it. And I will try to answer as best as I can. Otherwise, move on to the next part, part 5, and maybe your questions will be answered then. As always, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next time.